Right now, you might be struggling through your classes or even failing them. You might be worried that you may not finish high school. There might have even been a thought that you may not be smart enough. Well, the New Heights Educational Group begs to differ. We not only think you are smart enough, but with our help, you will complete your high school diploma. The New Heights Educational Group strives to improve your academic success through its tutoring services. To learn more, please visit newheightseducation.org and contact us. New Heights Educational Group, educational resources to help reach your goals.
This podcast is brought to you by Silicon Valley High School, the world's fastest growing, video-based, self-paced, teacher-supported, fully accredited online school that's recommended by more than 96% of students. Take individual courses at just $95 each, or earn your high school diploma at any age. Check us out at svhs.co.
Welcome back. This is your host, Buffy Williams, and you're listening to the New Heights Educational Group, the New Heights Show on Education. And tonight we read through issue 3 of the Easy Toons Antecedents for Struggling Youth. And the topic tonight was gaining a friend. In tonight's episode, we saw that Taylor helped her friend out, who was a new friend for her. You know that she struggled with that friendship with Fran for a couple of episodes now, or a couple of issues. And she had an opportunity to volunteer at a local library. And I know a lot of students struggle with whether or not they are balancing their time appropriately because of, rightfully so, they want to focus in on their academics, but they also want to be able to assist those in the community. And volunteer work is extremely important. It's something that I've been involved with my parents and my family. The majority of my life, I can remember volunteering with, at that time it was all the youth in our community would pick one Saturday out of the month, maybe like every 3 months, I think it was. And we would get together with the adults and we would get trash bags, and for maybe 3, 4, 5 miles, we would pick up all the trash on both sides of the highway that led into where we lived. And so I kind of grew up doing that. Of course, it was supervised. And now, if you were going to do something like that, because I recently also did that a few years back with a youth group that I work with. And so there are different procedures now, of course, for safety reasons. But the person who is sponsoring you has to go to the highway department here and go through a safety training, and also be issued reflective vests and different things like that. And they also show you where you can actually, once the bags are filled with trash, where they can be placed, and then they will coordinate with the local disposal department within your city or county, and they will come and pick the bags up from those locations, because naturally, once you pick up that much trash along that stretch of land, you have a large number of bags of trash. And so most people, they will do like an adopt a mile, and we didn't necessarily officially adopt a mile, because like I said, it was more of a 4 or 5 mile stretch. But you can do that as a group, as a church group, as a civic group. You can adopt a mile, you can adopt a stream, you can adopt a beach now, which I think is very, very nice. And you can contact your local highway departments and get involved with something like that. But that's one of the things that, I did as a youth. And we did numerous things in the community. And so as you see in this week's episode, Taylor and Fran and her other friend, they found innovative ways. And so sometimes you think, okay, well, I might not have enough time, because I think, like, I have to put in all of these hours, like they're working man hours for you to actually get something accomplished. But as you see in this week's episode, just by taking that short Saturday, that one Saturday a month, and spending time giving back to young children at a library, just having someone who can supervise them with a structured activity means a lot in the life of a child. Or something as simple as reading to children um, at a particular organization. Maybe it's a Boys and Girls Club and they need someone to come in and read to the children, or maybe they just need someone to supervise a play activity. But I know that, for most volunteer opportunities now, everyone has safety precautions in play. So just be mindful that when you have these lists of places that you want to volunteer, consult with your parents and see if they can take you to that facility and go through the procedures of what you need in order to become a volunteer. Because, as was mentioned in the story today as well, there are some procedures that volunteers have to go through. Sometimes volunteers have to go through background checks, and they also have to um, go through particular training so that they are interacting with the children in a safe way and in a way that's safe for them as well, and it protects them. And so they know the do's and don'ts of where they can take, what they can do with the children, how the activity or play that they're getting ready to be involved with can be um, uh, beneficial for both of them, and also the volunteer hours can be tracked. So, if you're seeking volunteer opportunities out there, I do encourage you to talk with your parents. They do have volunteermatch.com, and ironically, also Volunteer Match was where I initially found the New Heights Educational Group. I know that I went on their website and looked at it and looked at all the great things that they were doing, and that was also a pull for me. But they were also listing on the volunteer match, and so it gave some credibility to the organization as well. And so in your community, you have a number of things that you can do. If you're on the college level and you don't have time to volunteer, or you're getting ready to go into college, I know that a lot of high school students, when the blood mobile comes, they get permission from their parents, and they donate blood. That's another way that you can give back. I know that now during the COVID-19 pandemic here in the world, there is a blood shortage, and that there are people who need blood on a continual basis. There are surgeries that have to be performed, and there are people who are still sick or still get sick, and people who have sickle cell have to have blood transfusions quite frequently. And so there are a number of different ways that you can give back to others. We have elderly communities, or that you can volunteer with. Of course, you can't do that now, but you can think about some things that you could potentially do once things go back to semi-normal. I won't say normal. I don't know if we'll ever get to that place again, but we will have a way that we can benefit others. And there may be something that you can do. Maybe you have a neighbor, and your neighbor needs the leaves raked, and you know that maybe they can't move around like they used to, or maybe they are an elderly person, and you can rake the leaves for them. So there are a number of different ways, but I do encourage you to, like I said, talk with your parents first, so that is a supervised activity for you, especially in the K through 12 area. And as you also heard, you probably heard the door shutting as I was reading through the comic book, and that was Taylor's parents dropping her off for volunteer service. So it wasn't like she just went there on her own. It was a supervised event. And I'm trying to think, there are so many things that I did as a volunteer. They have Key Club, I know now. within the high schools. And, that's another organization where you can give back and things you can do. You can do campus cleanup. You can pick up trash around your school. I'm sure that your school would appreciate that after hours or during break. There are a lot of different things that you can do if you just sit down and think about it. And as Taylor learned, it doesn't require a lot of time. Just use the time that you have and be consistent. Once you commit to it, and you decide that this is something that I want to do, give yourself a time limit. Maybe I'll do this for the next 6 months or the next year. One Saturday a month, I want to donate my time, and then keep track of that time and make sure that the where you go also keeps track of the time that you're using. There are also soup kitchens. That was another very rewarding time for me. And, giving back at a soup kitchen, sometimes you don't realize if you can go in and, serve a meal to someone who is homeless, or a family who is homeless, or maybe a family who's not homeless, but they just don't have the funds to put a hot meal on the table, really can change your perspective about life and the things that we need to be grateful for, even the small things. And the least thing we could do is give of our time for those who are not as fortunate as we are. And so I think it's very important that we consider this week's issue of the Easy Toons comic book, issue 3, Gaining a Friend, because um, people who are your friends will want to support you in giving back to others, and not to the point where it depletes you, because you have to have a strong foundation and you have to practice self-care. And at this age is where we should be training you to not only help others but help yourself as well. So one of the major points out of this week's issue is, yes, give back to others and care about others, but don't overload yourself so much that you're giving so much of your time that you don't have time to um, do the things that you need to do for yourself in order to stay strong and healthy and have a good mental, physical, and emotional state. Because remember in the beginning of the story, Taylor was struggling with the fact that she had this research paper to do, she had all of these other activities that she was involved with, and the teacher had given her an assignment. She was already on the yearbook committee. She was on the cheer team. She was on student council. And so that one Saturday a month was all she really had. So when you get to a place where you're trying to juggle so many things, sometimes you have to take a step back and say, okay, well, what is it that I can really do? And if I'm doing cheer, and if cheer is only in the spring, well, maybe in the fall I can do this. But if you're on yearbook, that's going to go all year. If you're on student council, that's going to be all year. And so you don't want so many things on your plate that you're not able to keep your academics first, stay healthy mentally, emotionally, and physically, right? And so you want to make sure that your life is balanced. So you don't want to commit yourself to so much volunteer time that you don't have the time to do the things that you actually need to be doing. And so I would say, if you have too many things on your plate and you're volunteering too much, let's just step back a little bit and only volunteer in one area. And then maybe in 3 months, you'll swap out that to do something else instead of doing them simultaneously. So I hope that this week's issue of Easy Toons comic book, issue 3, Gaining a Friend, has been helpful for you. And I want to thank you again for joining us on this week's episode. And on next week, we will be discussing a topic that I feel is going to be very exciting. It's exciting for me. We're going to be talking about art education. And so I hope that you join us.
We hope that you join us next week.
That's our time, and you have been listening to the New Heights Show on Education. I'm your host, Buffy Williams,
If you like what you've heard, search for us on your smart speaker and listen to us anytime. Thank you for listening. Good night. Until we meet again